The Trump administration's trade war began with a promise to bring back American jobs lost to globalization. For decades, U.S. manufacturing towns suffered as factories closed and jobs moved overseas. The administration pledged to rebuild American industry and restore national pride. Their chosen tool? Tariffs, a tax on imported goods, designed to make foreign products more expensive and boost American alternatives. The main target was China, accused of unfair trade practices like subsidizing industries and manipulating its currency. The U.S. had a massive trade deficit with China, seen as proof that America was losing at trade. Tariffs aimed to pressure China into renegotiating trade terms and to level the playing field for American workers. But this was about more than economics. It was about national security and global power. The administration viewed China's rise as a threat to U.S. dominance, hoping tariffs would slow China's technological and military growth. The message was clear: the old rules no longer applied. America would now put itself first, using tariffs to try to restore a balance of power. The trade war was a declaration that the era of unchecked globalization was over. It was the start of a new, more confrontational approach to global trade. The tariff strategy quickly expanded beyond China, targeting U.S. allies like Canada, Mexico, the EU, Japan, and South Korea. Long-standing partners were suddenly treated as economic adversaries, accused of exploiting American generosity. Tariffs on steel and aluminum were justified as national security measures, straining alliances and causing confusion. Allies retaliated with their own tariffs, escalating tensions. American farmers were hit hard as China targeted key exports like soybeans, causing markets to evaporate overnight. Manufacturers relying on global supply chains saw costs soar, undermining the very industries tariffs were meant to protect. The trade war also reached India, as the U.S. revoked special trade privileges, prompting India to impose its own tariffs on American goods. Instead of isolating China, the U.S. found itself in disputes with multiple countries. The tariffs became a source of global friction, not just a negotiation tool. Allies and neutral powers began questioning America's reliability as a partner. The trade war's ripple effects disrupted global supply chains and sowed distrust. Rather than uniting allies against China, the U.S. found itself increasingly isolated. The policy's unintended consequence: a fractured global trading system. The world was now less certain of America's leadership. The trade war's friendly fire had lasting global repercussions. The trade war pushed Asian nations to cooperate more closely than ever before. Faced with U.S. unpredictability, countries in Asia began forging stronger regional ties. The U.S. exit from the Trans-Pacific Partnership led the remaining countries to form the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership. Meanwhile, China championed the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, uniting ASEAN, Japan, South Korea, Australia, and others. These agreements created a vast free trade zone, excluding the U.S. and centering economic power in Asia. Nations like Japan and South Korea, longtime U.S. allies, deepened economic integration with China out of necessity. The tariffs made American trade less attractive, pushing Asian countries to rely more on each other. Cooperation extended beyond trade to investment, infrastructure, and technology standards. Asian nations began setting their own rules for the 21st century economy without U.S. leadership. The U.S. aimed to isolate China, but instead it spurred the creation of a powerful, integrated Asian bloc. The region's new economic hub was no longer Washington, but Asia itself. The trade war accelerated Asia's rise as a global economic center. America's influence in the region diminished. A new era of Asian-led cooperation had begun. The trade war also encouraged deeper ties between India, Russia, and China. Despite historic rivalries, these giants found common cause in reducing dependence on the West. Russia supplied resources, China provided manufacturing power, and India offered a vast labor force and consumer market. Together, they formed a self-sufficient economic bloc, less reliant on Western demand. Organizations like the Shanghai Cooperation Organization evolved into platforms for economic integration. The three nations discussed linking economies and trading in their own currencies, bypassing the US dollar. This Eurasian triangle challenged the US-led global order. The trade war accelerated their cooperation, shifting the balance of power eastward. A new strategic alliance was taking shape across Eurasia. The world's economic center was moving away from the West. Central to Eurasian integration is China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. The BRI is a massive infrastructure project, building roads, railways, ports, and pipelines across Asia, Europe, and Africa. Its goal: connect China's factories with resource suppliers and consumer markets throughout Eurasia. The BRI links Russian resources, Chinese manufacturing, and Indian labor into a seamless network. New pipelines and railways make trade faster and more efficient, reducing reliance on maritime routes controlled by the West. The BRI cements China's role at the heart of Eurasian commerce. It's not just about trade, it's about reshaping the global economy's geography. While the US focused on tariffs, China built the infrastructure for a new world order. The BRI is a geopolitical masterstroke, shifting influence from west to east. The future of global trade is being built on Eurasian land. The trade war triggered a major shift in the global economy's center of gravity. For decades, Asia produced and the West consumed, with the US as the world's primary market. Tariffs and retaliation slowed US consumption and hurt American exporters. Meanwhile, China and India's combined population of nearly 3 billion is creating a massive new middle class. Asia's internal demand is now driving global growth, making the region more self-sufficient. The Belt and Road Initiative accelerates this trend, making regional trade faster and more efficient. Decisions in Beijing, New Delhi, and Moscow now shape the global economy more than those in Washington. The era of US-centric globalization is ending. A multipolar economic system is emerging, with Asia as its new engine. The trade war, meant to restore US dominance, ironically hastened its decline. America's role as the world's indispensable consumer is fading. The integrated Eurasian market is now the world's new economic powerhouse. This is the trade war's most lasting legacy. For decades, the US dollar was the backbone of the global financial system. The dollar's dominance gave America immense power over global trade and finance. But the trade war and shifting alliances have sparked efforts to reduce reliance on the dollar. Russia and China are leading the push for de-dollarization, trading in rubles and yuan and building alternatives to SWIFT. Central banks in emerging economies are stockpiling gold, hedging against dollar instability. China has launched commodity futures contracts priced in yuan, allowing oil producers to bypass the dollar. These moves signal the first cracks in the petrodollar system. The trade war highlighted the risks of depending on a single US-controlled currency. The world is moving toward a multi-currency financial system. America's financial leverage is slowly eroding. The shift is gradual, but the direction is clear. The dollar's unchallenged reign is ending. A new era of global finance is dawning. The trade war's impact went beyond economics, reshaping global security and alliances. India, once courted by the US for arms deals, turned back to Russia and diversified its defense partnerships. Even rivals like India and China found common ground in resisting American unilateralism. The trade war disrupted American farmers and businesses, but failed to bring jobs back or force China's submission. Instead, it accelerated China's technological and financial independence. US alliances weakened, while Eurasian cooperation deepened. The world shifted from a unipolar to a multipolar order. The rise of Eurasia and the decline of dollar dominance are now realities. Ironically, a policy meant to restore American power solidified the rise of its rivals. The trade war changed the global order for generations to come.